What's happening, Maddie? You all right?
Yeah, you.
Let me just turn the old sound off on the phone here, make sure that I'm not going to have, the secret conversations or anybody ringing me while we're on the podcast, that kind of deal. Not that I have secret conversations. That sounded weird. I was going to say some sort of spy conversations or something that was happening from wherever, but then that makes me sound suspect, and I don't want to go home and get murdered by the missus. So so I didn't mean that. Honestly, I promise. Yeah. Right. How we doing, buddy? You all right?
I'm good, man. You?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Everything's going well. You know, Monday, living the dream. Lots of things happening in the world. I can't complain.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah,
nice
so
weather for a change.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. For those of you who aren't English listening to the podcast, one of the things we always talk about as a default in the UK is whether or not it's pissing it down outside or whether it's nice. And the weather here lately is good, and it's supposed to be great this week as well. So I'm really excited. We're going to get the kids out for the first time. Yeah. During this lockdown and stuff, we haven't really done much. Admittedly, we're not a family that goes out and does like the long walks at night and all those kind of things.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
So no dog, no nothing like that.
Yeah. Well, we've got dogs. We take the dogs for a walk every now and then, but mostly the dogs just they have like a run in the back alley behind where we live, and they're able to get back there and do their thing. But we haven't really done that much, like going out to the beach or going out and doing very many things. So because it's going to be super nice this week, I am going to chuck masks on everybody and drag them out of the house. We're going to go to the beach, and we'll see how it goes to be outside and stuff.
Yeah, I've been thinking about taking those to strawberry picking tomorrow.
Yeah, strawberry picking is amazing. Yeah, great.
We had an allotment last year, so...
Okay, yeah. Don't get me started on the allotment thing. So let's see, what are we at now? So it would probably be before we met quite a few years ago, but I would say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I had it in my mind that I was going to get an allotment, and I really was going to do well at it. And if I were to be completely honest, the first 6 months I had it, amazing. It was like going to be the new way of the future. Like, it was incredible. Like, I was always taking Olivia out there, and we were always doing lots of stuff, and it was great. But now, man. About 2 years after that, I tried to share it with somebody else, and you'd go out there and you'd work like stink for like 8 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yep. Yeah. I work all week, stuck all week in a 9 to 5, no time at night, that kind of thing. Come back the next weekend, and it was like you never even touched it the week before.
We know what I'm like. I'm like, when there's people who are new talking to you, I don't really like it. It takes me a long time to get to know people, especially in that environment we worked together. It was pretty easy. Yeah. But when you've got old people coming up to you, introducing you, and...
Oh no, the community aspects of it, amazing. Like I actually love that.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, so here in town, so it took me like 2 or 3 years to get an allotment, and once I had it, I really enjoyed the community aspects of it and how the allotment association run and all those kind of things are fantastic. But I also would always take things with a grain of salt when it came to there's an expert on everything on an allotment, whether you've planted your runner beans 4 inches or 4.6 inches apart or whatever, you know what I mean? Somebody always has an opinion on everything.
Come on, yeah.
And so if you just take that with a grain of salt, and I take the old adage of opinions are like armpits and assholes, we've all got them, and sometimes they stink. They're just trying to help. Their intentions are good. There was nobody malicious, right?
No one malicious. It's just... I like when you're doing that sort of thing, you ought to be left alone and just get to it and just... That's me, that sort of thing. I just want to get it done.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that kind of stuff. So just make sure the microphone's closer, so we make sure the audio feed is good. That's perfect. That's actually a lot better, actually. So it's one of those things. It's once you get into it and once you start to enjoy it, it can be fantastic. Or like me, it became a chore, to try and do that whole go out and take care of things. And obviously at the time, I then got into starting a business, and my priorities had lie somewhere else. I spent all year fighting the English summer, so obviously starting late because it's pissing it down through to June, and then trying to grow tomatoes from June to August, and then realizing that at the end of the year I've got a bumper crop of
spinach and radish,
of all these things, but really I've got about $2.75 worth of tomatoes at Tesco's there. So for me, I kind of made a decision like, okay, even though this is great kind of for my my mental well-being and my physical well-being. I mean, at the time, Christ, I was able to go out there and work and really enjoy it, and I thought it was great. I kind of made a decision that I'd put my energies elsewhere. I just didn't have enough bandwidth to kind of do it all at once.
It's hard work after a while. The novelty wears off, and then it's just.
Yeah. So you still have the allotment, or
no? It was my decision to get rid of it.
Yeah, it was it. Yeah. I mean, look, you got to have it in you to be out there and doing it. Right?
You know what it's like with a child. Going into other people's greenhouses, you're digging, and then next thing you know, he's off somewhere in someone else's greenhouse or in someone else's shed, and you're digging at one bit and you're chasing after him for 10 minutes, and then.
Well, that's why I believe in corporate punishment when it comes to children. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm joking. It's tough. It's but one of the great things about the allotment that I had was they had a community, a kind of shed or hub that was full of loads of play stuff. It had loads of toys in there. People had brought gardening books in or children's coloring books, and it was great because you'd go up there, and if I wanted to keep the kids occupied, I literally would just say, "Right, guys, head on over to the clubhouse and just enjoy yourself."
All right. Okay.
And they'd go over there and they would spend loads of time. And plus, you have to keep your kids engaged when they go out there because, if they're not doing something, they're going to be getting into trouble, right? Yeah. So it's one of those things. I guess that's the joys of parenthood, right?
It is, yeah. My boy's got a delay, so he's only just started speaking a few months ago.
Okay, yeah.
He's 4, so his understanding is there, but trying to explain to him that he's doing something that's not supposed to be happening.
Right.
He shouldn't be doing.
Sure, man.
It's a bit more stressful.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, it's one of those things. You gotta take it as it comes and do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, what is it you're doing at the moment? You're in school, right? So, how are you finding further education?
So I'm in university, college,
right? Okay, yeah. Or depending on where you're at, yeah. So in America, obviously, we refer to university as college most of the time, whereas here, college is more like a transition between high school and university.
Yeah. So 16 you leave school, but you have to take an education now. So an apprenticeship where you learn a trade, but for less money, or you go to college and you learn a trade there, but you're basically doing it off your own back, and you'll probably need something else to fund you.
Yeah, sure.
So university is obviously the next step. I'm at Staffordshire University doing sports therapy. Which is
very cool.
It's like physio, but we don't get as much of the opportunities as physio. Yeah. So we can't prescribe medicine.
Okay.
We can do a lot more skeletal, muscular stuff, so more sports clubs.
It's interesting, that's probably one of the careers, I've always believed that I have mixed feelings about further education, right? Mm-hmm. So back in the day, I obviously went to school, and to put it bluntly, I don't think I took it very seriously. I was a music education major, and I at one point was also a glass blowing major. So I used to make big, vases and large glass blown, hand blown glass bowls and stuff. And I kind of thought, I want to do that as a career. And then I went to university. Not because of peer pressure or because it was something I wanted to do. I just kind of went, I suppose because of peer pressure. It was just something that I didn't even know until my senior year that I should be looking at colleges or universities and all that kind of stuff. And it just kind of happened through osmosis. So I was very lucky that my father was in university at the same time I was in uni. So we used to go to classes together and stuff like that, which was incredible. But I just kind of went through the motions, you know what I mean? And it's my belief that that is one of those things that you're going to be much better off by going to university and properly learning. So further education for me is doctors, lawyers, teachers, obviously. And it's weird because at the moment, I don't know how I feel about it, right? Like if my kids come to me one day and they go, "Look, Dad, I don't want to go to uni. I want to do this, or that." I don't think I'm going to feel that kind of public anxiety or peer pressure in making that and going no, you got to go to school. You got to do. I mean, I know so many people who have degrees or even multiple degrees, and they don't do anything with what they went to university for, right?
It's different here than it is. We keep going back to when obviously your roots from America, because you guys, our consensus, you have to save up for that sort of thing. You pay for it with yourself, with your own personal savings. Here, it's you take out the loan yourself and you pay back the loan out of you.
Right. Yeah. So it's a little different. So this is one of the bees that I have in my bonnet when it comes to universities and to higher education. Sometimes, I believe that most universities are just like large corporations.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. All they're doing is they're set up. They're pumping their kids through the system. They're charging much more than they should, and then you throw on top of it the fact that you're going to be laden with all this potentially student loan debt or whatever afterwards. I mean, I can remember being in university and working and trying to get by, but then when I found out that I could get further student loans, I literally just, without thought or implication, thought, okay, I can get the money, so I'm going to get it, and I'll worry about it later. When I get a degree, it's gonna pay for itself. And I think that I was probably very similar to a lot of people that are in further education, but whether that's the right thing or not, I'm not really too sure. Years later, loads of student loan payments later, and all that kind of stuff. I think it was probably still a good thing to do as far as growing as an individual, to go to university and do all those kind of things. However, I don't believe that I was part of a career. On the right career path to actually make university pay for itself. So people that I know that have gone to university and become doctors or nurses, they're obviously making better money now because they're doctors or nurses or even high-end lawyers, right? So that's how I kind of look at it. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I would have done it as seriously if I did it 10 years ago.
Right.
I'm glad I went into it a bit older. Like, I'm nearly 30 now in a few months. So
sure, man.
And you can probably tell looking at me now. It's coming to that time now. But yeah, I mean, if I did it at 18, I probably would have wasted that opportunity.
Yeah, sure.
But now, having a family and trying to support a family while at university has been the best option, really.
Yeah, it's a growth thing, right? It's a need that you found something that you want to do, obviously, that you're passionate about, and I think that's a great way of doing it. However, when I have seen people that have taken a break after high school or after primary education, let's call it, it's funny to me how many people come back or how many people don't. Sometimes I wish I would have taken a year or two off, before it was all said and done, or maybe got some life experience under my belt. But I don't think I would have gone back. Like my old man, right? Hats off to him. I learned so much about life and so much about how you take on not a struggle, but how you take on growing yourself personally. To go back to school in your 40s, man, and learn a new trade because you're passionate about something and get a degree whilst raising a family, whilst doing all that kind of stuff. Dude, I have loads of respect for anybody who does that. So you doing that is fantastic.
It's the best way because you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to do something for your family.
Yeah, and the focus and the energy that is put into that is going to be way different than the average. Well, I say that maybe I'm only speaking from personal experience, but my passion for learning something at the age of 18, depending on what it was probably far matched with where I would be today if I tried to pick up something new. Like, for instance, I decided I wanted to learn Mandarin, right? So okay. I literally have to be more disciplined now than I was at that age, because it was like, I feel like at a younger age, it's kind of like pouring a cup full of water, and it's quite easy to do it. Whereas, maybe you're trying to fill up your cup later on in life, and you don't have the bandwidth to do it. So
I've been trying to learn Japanese. So
all right,
in the same position. I was meant to be, before all this happened, I was supposed to be in Japan for a month, working over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Doing physical therapy as well?
Yeah. So we're working at this is a university in Tokyo, obviously.
Okay.
But we'll be basically swapping places with a couple of Japanese students. And
is that still going to happen?
Yeah, but we don't know when now.
So bucket list stuff for me. I've always wanted to go to Japan. Like, I wouldn't say like I'm overly fascinated with Japanese culture or something. I'm like, okay. I'm not reading like old Japanese proverbs and all that kind of stuff. But when I see anything that has to do with Japan on the television, or I've seen pictures and photographs of of the landscape and stuff, it's one of those places I've always wanted to go and spend time, man.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Japanese stuff, not supposedly like the animes or anything like that, but just seeing like Tokyo and seeing the crosswalks with
Yeah, I had a friend in university actually who she was on an exchange program from Japan, and she was taking a jazz improvisation class with me in university, and I really one of my regrets is not making a better effort to try and see more of her culture and more of what she was about then. Obviously, we had communication issues, because her English was kind of broken, even though it was quite good, and my Japanese was obviously non-existent. So
it's the hardest language. I'm guessing you're the same with Mandarin. It's such a hard language because when you're learning Western languages, you at least we know the letters, and the letters sound what you're trying to say. But when you're looking at the letters from there, it's such a hard. It's
letters, and it's the syllables and the pitches and tones of a pronunciation. It's like saying to somebody, I try to explain it. It's like saying cucumber. And you say cucumber, but if you want to mean something else, you go cucumber, or like that kind of dialect, or the way you say it, right? Yeah. The ups and downs of a language are amazing. Let alone syllables and learning a whole different alphabet. I'd love to get into that as much. Like the people that I've met in my life that have been real great linguists, that really have taken the time to learn like different languages. Like I used to work on ships many years ago.
Oh wow.
And on most boats, you'll get like an international language expert. Basically, they'll speak Spanish, English, Japanese, and they'll learn Russian. They'll speak multiple languages, and those are always the most interesting people that I've met because they just have this way of thinking when it comes to everything from learning something.
They're not one dimensional. Like we're talking English now. We're always thinking in English, but they've always got to think in English if they're English, and then also think in another language straight after.
Yeah, it's English, or is it the Queen's English? You know what I
mean? I don't think Queen's English exists, especially around here. So.
I think, again, with language, an interesting thing is how things will change over the years. What is it? Is it Ebonics, or Urban Dictionary and all that kind of stuff? Like things that'll mean something else. I'd love to know what Snoop Doggy Dogg has done to the English language in 150 years' time. You know what I mean? Like people showing up for rizzle, my nizzle, what's happening? All that kind of stuff. Like will it become like common dialect, right? I don't know. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head.
He meant to say like whom and one is like annoyed about something, like we're the one.
Like whom, who, and all those kind of things. Yeah,
that's pretty much died out now.
It's interesting, and I think a lot of it is text speak as well with writing. Look, I am one of the things I've worked on the most in my adult life is the fact that I am probably as illiterate as a grown man can be when it comes to how I write things out, like my these, them, or my them, or your, or you are, or all those kind of things, right? Like all the spelling stuff, there, and there.
When you go on social media and you don't see the right there.
Yeah, sure. And one thing that I have to struggle with is obviously texting and typing. When I'm on social media or on the phone, I rely almost 100% of the time on spell check, and I make. Quite often I'll make mistakes like that, and it's funny as I go, I kind of make it an excuse like, oh damn, spell check, that's what that was, when really it was just me being not at the scratch and maybe not putting the right thing down.
Typing faster than you're thinking.
Yeah, man, sure, it happens all the time. It's unfortunate, but it's part of my life's journey, I guess. With kind of learning about new different things. So how have you found? I'm assuming all your courses have gone online now. So what you do is like a pretty hands-on thing, right? You would think in the hospital, in wherever it is you're at.
So placement was supposed to be this year. I'm going into my last year of university in September.
Yeah,
but it's all on its head now. That's when we're supposed to get placements, places, go and work in a club or within the NHS, something like that.
And how about your coursework? How did you finish things up for the last kind of like 4 months?
We've had to do it on Microsoft Teams, which is which is fantastic. I mean, our lecturer is like an ambassador for anything Microsoft. Anything Microsoft bring out new, he's like, you all need to learn this.
Yeah.
And he pushes it onto the university, and the university have basically turned around and gone, no, we're not interested in that.
Really?
Yeah. So now he's like jumping up and down, going, well, now they're asking me for my help, and now I'm like, well, you wanted it, you didn't want it 6 months ago.
Sure. Well, financially, I suppose it doesn't make any sense for a university to do that. So this is an interesting thing I was again looking at when it comes to higher education. Dude, in this day and age, you can learn so many things from the internet. Why on earth would I want to pay? I don't even know what college tuition costs these days.
$9,250, I think, a year.
So £9,250, and that's for 3 or 4 terms, right? That's what your annual fee is.
I'm there 4 because I didn't do anything in higher education after I left school.
Okay.
I had to do an additional year of basically college study. So
for $10,000 worth of course, why can't it cost $2,000 and be an online course where I can, as a person or an individual, educate 7,000 people on a Microsoft Teams style lecture?
Well, we have that, don't we? We have Open University, but Open University don't offer the same opportunities in terms of financial support.
But even Open University costs a fortune over here, right? But what I'm supposing I'm kicking about the idea of is, why isn't it something that is that is run by the government separately? So my tax dollars, right, besides just going to, social responsibility and all these other kind of things that we get for our money when it comes to living in a society, one of the things I would love to see from that is not just lower education up to an age of 16 or 18, which I believe in the UK it's mostly 16 before it's publicly funded or privately funded.
So I'm not too sure. I believe colleges are government funded. I would assume so, because sixth forms is basically your college.
Right, so they probably still get massive government funding to run a college situation, which is more like trade school or apprenticeship age.
10 years ago, we were getting money from the government to be in university. If we didn't miss any of our classes that week, we'd get £30 in the bank.
Right, yeah, sure. Yeah, but my point being is so what is to stop some of our tax resources going to something like the Open University, which is not a government-run organization? It should be taken, like when someone says, like in a socialist society, you should take over this and that, do this. Why on earth don't we offer further education, higher education, on an online basis, on like an open university structure? Every single country in the world should have some sort of an actual open university that you can log into and take that coursework and have it be funded, right? How many teachers would you need to actually run a university?
You wouldn't need many, would you, on a video thing?
That's my point. Well, what I'm trying to say is you would get a certain amount of experts that you would hire. I mean, when I was in school, it was most classes were taught by grad assistants or grad people going for doctorates, right, doctoral stuff, and they were teaching classes in the university anyway. There weren't even full-time teachers there.
Oh yeah, we are now. So when I've done this, I'll be on my clinic call, and that is ran by people who are doing a PhD.
Correct. So why not make it a situation where you get actual qualified people? I believe the saying is those who can do and those who can't teach sometimes, depending on what you're talking about as far as the trade, right? What I mean by that is like, maybe music related or theater related or acting coaches that are teaching acting classes that have never been there, or the fact that you can go to a university and take a freaking comedy class that's done by somebody who isn't a professional comedian or has never done it, that kind of thing. That's what I mean in respect to that. But what's to stop? Say, for instance, the UK from making the Open University free and raising the skill set of the people, and then having that be something that we're given as part of our societal benefits. I
mean, there's lots of things I wish the government funded, to be honest. I think anything that helps the society should be funded by the government. I know that's a bit of a...
Yeah, I mean, it's not at all for me. I mean, I'd love to see what happens with that actual money, a lot of times. But this is just one example of...
Yeah.
But what would the economic impacts of that be? Imagine how many universities, for instance, there are. I suppose in the UK, colleges and universities, a couple hundred maybe? Colleges and universities?
Yeah, there are. I mean, you could use Scotland as an example. Scotland actually have their face-to-face universities free. So
but that's a different kind of thing. So they fund publicly education at those institutions.
Yeah.
But those institutions will then still charge per student to run those institutions. Whereas you could probably take one of those institutions and make that nationalized with free courses online. And imagine being able to have an impact of hitting 70 million people in the UK rather than hitting 10,000 students that might go to the university?
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, this is just me kicking about something I don't really know much about, but I would love to see that when it comes to further education.
I guess it would be down to, if everyone had degrees, who would do the stuff that they've left to do that degree? So there's always a spot for someone else to do another job. So at the moment with Brexit going on, there's been lots in the news about people not wanting to pick the fruit that the Eastern Europeans would have come over and done. Mm-hmm. So once you give that opportunity to everyone, then all those degrees go to the people who they really want to be doing that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, then at the end of the day, it becomes a free market, just like it is now. So for instance, I mean, you've worked enough in different industries to realize that just because you do something doesn't mean that you're qualified to do it or that you do it well. So what I'm talking about is just a leg up in the beginning to kind of get that educational foundation to then go and apply it. For me, that just kind of makes sense.
It makes perfect sense because there's no real overheads. You can think a lot of people now realize that overheads can be cut now because people can do stuff from home. And I think university is one of those things you can see you can do from home. Apart from somewhere like my course, I'll still have to go in at some points to do face-to-face stuff. So one of the things I do is massage.
Well, yeah, you have an application that you actually have to apply in order to learn how to do it.
But like law degrees, things like that, you could probably do from home.
Yeah, I mean, you could do most of it from home, but applied law, then you would have to, there's always going to be a stage in the education game where you will go from a student to actually starting to apply.
Yeah.
That one kind of thing that I think is interesting is the apprenticeship schemes and the way they're all set up. So to me, an apprentice is somebody who goes and actually learns how to do something by spending time in an organization, or let's make it more traditional, right? An apprentice would be somebody who's going to go and learn how to be a sword maker.
Yeah.
And you're going to go spend some time with somebody who knows how to make swords and find out what's going on. As part of your apprenticeship, you may then do a little bit of work to help them do things to prove your worth to the teacher or that kind of thing, right? Yeah. Whereas in the UK at the moment, what I see from apprenticeships, I must get, because I've got a couple of different organizations that I run here in the UK, I bet every week I get contacted by somebody about an apprenticeship scheme, a different person trying to push an apprenticeship scheme on me as a business, and they don't even know what it is I do, but they're approaching me to try and get me to take on apprentices, when I just don't feel like, I don't do anything that's that skilled to where it would justify bringing on an apprentice, So I don't know. It's a weird thing how that's changed as well over the years when it comes to when you're talking about education and how you learn something.
Yeah, so apprenticeships, there's a lot of my friends have done apprenticeships because of obviously Bentley down the road. In
Bentley, yeah. So that was going to say Bentley's a prime example here in the UK or here locally.
Yeah, anywhere like that who offers trade. So you basically stand with someone who does wood shop, and then you take on their work eventually, but you spend one day at college as well,
right?
And then that's what you do for 3 years.
But after that apprenticeship, they then go to work for Bentley, right? Because that's a way of Bentley getting a skilled workforce to do something.
Yeah, that's right.
What I'm talking about is somebody who should be hiring an office temp or or whatever, and they'll get an apprentice in to do that work for nothing, or someone who needs work experience. I hate the term work experience when it comes to a lot of stuff, because the fact is you're either doing the job or you're not. You're not, to come and have to do it for free just because it's a work experience or a placement or something, that kind of thing. I mean, it serves its purpose. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it happens, but it shouldn't happen for any longer than a couple of weeks, a couple of months, maybe at most.
Office sort of work, office temps, that sort.
Depends on what you're talking about, I suppose. Yeah. It's a bit of a cat hole to go down, that kind of thing. So that's higher education and stuff. It's great that you're doing that, and it's great that you're now learning a a trade. So what do you think about things like CBD oil and all that kind of stuff? Do you guys talk about that on your courses? Do you guys talk about nutritional foundation when it comes to how you do all that kind of stuff? Like,
I always take the mate because I'm trying to do my personal training course and my nutrition course as well. But I'm
right. Yeah. No, fair enough. Hey, look, it's the way it is, right?
Yeah. But CBD oil hasn't really been mentioned. I mean, CBD oil is something I've listened to and read about because I've got a bad knee. I had an accident when I was like 16.
Yeah.
I kicked in my knee and tore my MCL and my meniscus and my ACL. So
wow,
I always struggle with that still.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm always trying new things. So lavender cream was mentioned to me before. I was using that for a bit. So CBD oil is something I would try.
Yeah. And how? So your coursework has been 3 years now, has it?
Yeah, 3 years out of 4.
And so you've got one more year to go, and as part of that, you'll have some sort of a work placement where you'll do some hands-on stuff.
Yeah. So this year we're supposed to be going down to trying to find our own placement.
Okay.
So like a football club or rugby, something like that.
Right.
We go and work there. Follow their sports therapists around, basically like an hour apprenticeship would work. You follow them around, learn a bit of their trade.
Yeah.
And then I've got to write a dissertation at the end, which is like a large paper.
Okay. And then what about medical basics when it comes to a career like that? Like, so can you do phlebotomy at the moment? Can you administer shots, all those kind of things? Are you learning all that kind of stuff, or is this a completely different thing?
We can't do that. That's a physiotherapist. So physiotherapy is more like for geriatrics.
Right. Okay.
People who lose like amputations.
Yeah.
Still doing the same thing as us, like injuries wise, but they're more hospital based, so they can prescribe. Our stuff's on the field, so if anyone goes down on a pitch.
Mine is just more of a curiosity question more than anything, you know. Like I always like to when I'm talking to people, find out who's going to be helpful in an apocalypse situation.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
You know, like, do I need to look up Matty and see if he can, provide general first aid to the, to the colony, that kind of thing.
One of the hardest things I've had to do is learn anatomy. Anatomy is the hardest thing I've had to learn.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So learning about where the muscles are and where they attach to your bones. So the bones are pretty easy. And people know the main bones in the body, but when you've got to mark down every piece of the spine and every bony landmark where your muscles attach.
And they don't talk about, do they talk about like Eastern philosophy, like things like acupuncture and all that kind of stuff? Do you learn those kind of things as part of your coursework, or?
We haven't learned it, but we're told to go on to and try and learn them sort of things.
Okay. Yeah,
they're not part of the thing. So this year we've done sports injury assessment. Last year, the year before that, we did massage. That was the main thing last year.
Okay.
And then this year coming up, we're doing more spinal nervous system.
And in Staffordshire, right?
Yeah,
that's where you're at. How many people are on your particular course in Staffordshire?
I think there's about 25 of them now.
Okay, so 25 people.
There was more
from that university, and then 25 potential, I guess, sports clubs that are going to be looking for somebody afterwards, or afterwards. What are your options? Can you set up your own kind of clinic?
Yeah, so many people do. Many people go off and set their own clinics up.
Okay.
So they'll offer like in a sort of place like this, they'll have a bench and a few gym bits, and they'll offer that sort of thing for £50 an hour.
It'd be perfect for the office space here. So for those of you who don't know, my office and studio here is above one of the best sandwich shops in the area. So you go downstairs, you get yourself a nice fry up and a sandwich. You could come straight upstairs and get an ice bath and a rub down and a massage. I might actually check back in 3 to 4 months. That might be be where we're at.
I'll go into the front.
But yeah, no, that's cool. That's I'm just always curious about the application of education, because like when I was in school, it was more a question of what are you going to do afterwards, or how are you going to apply what you've actually learned and what you do, and for me, I've known several different massage therapists, people who have degrees in massage or even in sports therapy, that have set up their own clinics or have gone out on ships to work in the spas and stuff there, or loads of different hotels obviously will have.
Which I'd love to do.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. Just a massage is probably one of the best things that's my strongest point.
Right.
I actually got probably my highest mark in massage.
Okay.
Out of the whole year so far. So massage is like my key thing, so I'd love to go and do something.
Yeah, nothing to stop you from doing it, but you're not going to be going traveling the world doing any sports massage at this stage in the game. You know what I mean? You gotta stick around.
Maybe. I mean, we'll just see how this month goes in Japan when I go there.
Man, I think it would be incredible. I think it's one of those life experiences that will be completely different. And how could you go wrong with doing that? I will go one day. I cannot wait to go. I just hope it's something I get to before.
I do feel somewhere like that's a once in a lifetime thing.
Do you think?
Yeah, it's so expensive. So when you want to go somewhere like that, that's the only time I think you can really do it in your lifetime.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, or if you're working and traveling, but again, when you get to the stage where you've got family and stuff, man, it's much harder to do. You know, there's very few people that are blessed in that kind of that capacity to be able to travel on a worldwide note. Anyway, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you're used to it. You fly back and forth sometimes. I don't think I could do a flight like that with family. I hate flying as it is.
Yeah, so it's definitely stressful flying with kids, I'll tell you. But not so bad now. The difference between having children that are just a little bit older than flying with a baby, man, that was insane. Yeah. Probably the single. Well, actually, that's me being a little over dramatic, but one of the most dramatic events of my life, outside of like the usual stuff, was our first flight to America as a family. I've never been so wound up and stressed in my whole entire life. So I'm going to tell the story now. My people probably won't really appreciate this, as in the missus and the kids. But so we go. We're flying out of Manchester. Obviously, we're there like 4 hours early, right? A mate of ours took us up to the airport. Everything was running so smooth. I look at the missus and I go, this is just amazing. This is no problem at all. The kids are golden. My young son's happy to be there. He's happy. Everybody's happy. And we get up to the desk and the girl goes, do you have your ESTAs filled out? And I say, what now? So I hadn't traveled internationally in quite a long time.
Okay.
In so long that I didn't even realize that my U.S. passport was expired until I took a business trip just previously. Okay. And I said, ESTAs? What's an ESTA? Right? I didn't look at it. So here it is. I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning in the middle of London. The middle of Manchester. We're at the airport. And she goes, well, you need to fill out an ESTA. It's not a problem. There's a computer kiosk right there. You go over, you fill out this like US visa thing. All right. They'll send you back a thing in 5 minutes. No problem. So we go over and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. We're freaking out by this time. Go over to this machine, start feeding pounds into it, signing on. The missus is on her phone. I'm on my phone at the same time. Nothing's connecting. We can't fill out the applications. We're there for literally an hour and a half. Nobody at the airport is helpful or willing to help do anything. The guys at the actual check-in desk, all useless as tits on a frog. Like literally, it was just like, wait, you should have checked. Sorry, this is bad times, right? So we're going through all this kind of stuff, and finally, we connect on one of the mobiles, okay, and we're able to go in and we're able to fill out these 3 ESTA applications. Obviously, I'm an American and I don't need one, right? So for the missus and the kids, and the kids ones come back like that. The one for the missus don't come back. So we're like waiting. We're like, oh my God, what do we do? Meanwhile, time's ticking. We finally go back up to the desk again. They're able to call some sort of hotline or whatever to make sure it's going to be okay for us to fly. So then they here's your tickets. There you go. Fine. So by this point, man, I am so wound up that I'm ready to pop. My youngest son, who was probably I think under a year old at the time, went from being an angel to start to get antsy because he's been in the same part. He's bored. Whereas a family, we're like whatever. So we're going through the airport with a stroller, this and that, and then the missus goes, I just want some snacks and stuff for the kids. Now, mind you, this is our first flight as a family. So one of our carry-ons is a bag full of toys and things to keep Jake, to keep my son like going on the plane and all this other stuff. And I'm pushing a trolley. I've got 2 bags behind me, and her and my daughter go off to buy some supplies, right? So I'm going like, come on, we don't have time for this. Then over the tannoid, it's boom, boom, flight, blah, 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 to wherever, waiting for the Tice family, head to the gate now, blah, the normal airport announcement, right? So I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So I'm waiting for them. They're in the store. And then I realize that we have like, it's gate 204 and we're in the center at like gate 100. Right, so there's that far to go.
About 2 miles away.
Yeah. So it's like it's the ass end of the airport all the way down one wing of the airport. So I think, okay, I'm going to stop the plane, right? So here I am with my two things. Here I am with pushing a stroller with my son in it, and I'm flying through the airport. I'm freaking out. They're still calling us over the intercom, because they clearly can see that we've checked in at the front, and we're just not in the airport, right? So I go running all the way down there. Now I'm a big dude, man. I was ready to drop. I was wheezing. I was like freaking out, and I'm like, I look behind me and I think, well, surely the missus and my daughter are going to have caught up with me by now because I can't be moving that fast. And there's nobody there. So I say to the girl, all these flight attendants, they've just checked in like 200 or 300 people or whatever onto this flight. They're all looking at me like, okay, whatever. And I'm like, they're coming. They're right behind me. And nothing happens. They're nowhere to be found. So I look back, and then all of a sudden I see them running towards the gate, right? And it was the most stressful experience I've ever had in my whole entire life, man. If I could, I'm sure I shaved 2 or 3 years off my life just in that day. Like I was that wound up by the time we got on the plane. And then after that, it was okay. But it was just, and then to top it all off, my son cried from the time they closed the door literally to when we landed, on an 8.5 hour flight. And I'm not joking. He did not stop the whole entire time. And then when we landed, as we landed and we were pulling back up the tarmac to the gate, he finally went to sleep. And it was like one of those situations, right, where you're looking around the plane and everybody who was around us were all like, you've got to be taken. You know what I mean? They're like, you're taking a mick, kid. And he was out like a light when we landed. It was amazing. But then it's just the whole stress of flying. You get there and you're like, 2 hours. Then it was like 2.5 hours in Atlanta. So we're going through Atlanta. We got to come through immigration. It took 2.5 hours with a kid to stand there in line going through for the plane to get through everybody. Yeah. 2.5 hours. So I thought that like our connecting flight was like 3 hours later. That's going to be plenty of time. No worries. We got through and we barely made the connecting flight in Atlanta with a 3-hour layover. So it was nuts. It was very stressful situation.
Yeah. Someone when we with our first flight as a family, Finn was 18 months old.
Yeah.
And on the way back, she decided to go for the cheapest 3:00 in the morning flight.
Oh no.
And some guy decided he was just going to collapse and have a heart attack on the way back on the plane.
Happens. Yeah. Happens.
So we had to stop in Lisbon.
Wow.
Yeah. We have the same issue as you, constantly crying.
Yeah. It's but now thankfully, like we've taken trips since, and it's been nothing like that. They're a pleasure to fly with now. But long haul flights, they're very, very, very difficult. But who knows what's going to happen with the way Corona's set up now, right? With this COVID stuff, how are they going to continue to do flights, to do things like flights and like cruise ships and stuff like that? These are big concerns, man. Like,
well, if the guy who I was living with, me and my partner split up for a little bit. I was living with my auntie.
Okay.
Remember Sally? So
Yeah.
So the person she was with, he's a big plane nut. He works at Manchester Airport doing the bagging.
Right.
And he was trying to explain to me how they were going to do things, and they've had to bring planes back, but they were going to scrap and because they're larger.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so I think they're just going to fly with, like they are with buses now, just cross off a couple of seats and hope for the best.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always thought that they're, financially, from a financial point of view, that they had to have a flight that was relatively full. Like, so for instance, I know a hotel can go on like, was it the numbers like 30 or 40% capacity? A hotel can pay for itself. But a flight, I would imagine that they would have to have a certain amount of people on board at all times just to make it financially viable for them to pay for the fuel, or flights just go from being normal price now to 4 times the price that they are because the planes are going to be half full, right?
They have been now. The prices are going up for next year already. There's a number of factors of that. It's not just Corona. It's obviously European holidays for us are going to get more expensive anyway next year. But with both of those hitting, and there's probably going to be a recession next year, everything's just pricing itself up ready.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a recession next year. Yeah. All this money that everybody's getting and spending at the moment has got to be paid for in one way or another. There's so many different. As far as from an economics point of view, I really took it upon myself over the weekend to try and look at how a lot of things work when it comes to where this money's coming from, how we've spent it, and man, it's a nightmare. And the only way to get out of where we're at. I mean, when you think of interest rates, like there are government officials now that want a negative interest rate, right? We're at 0% lending almost all the way around the houses for most things. It just doesn't make any sense to me how the government is paying with the people's money. Right, so all this stuff that's coming down the pipeline, the funding for small business, for furloughs, for any kind of benefits that's taken care of,
business bailouts as well,
anything at all, that's all coming. They're playing with the people's money, with the people's tax money, and for things like the bond markets or for things like loans to be 0% interest, there's just nowhere to go. There's no more quantitative easing. You can't do it. Has to get worse before it can start to get better.
They've always played with money. 12 years ago, they paid £500 million to bail out banks for the same thing. It's just
and look at where we've got from that. Again, this is an interesting thing about how things are spent and what we do with it. Now, I don't know enough about it to kind of get into it and the bare bones of it, but I sit back and I just question those kind of things and I just go, wow, that's something I need to learn about. And I suppose that's one of the benefits of kind of having devices now that have all the information in the world at our fingertips.
It's our money at the end of the day. We're paying for this sort of stuff, and we should be the ones that we should at least know what's going on with it. We're trusting these people to spend money. That's pretty much what they voted in for, to do the best for us.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So, there we go. So, vaccines and stuff, an interesting thing that I just saw on TV today, actually, with regards to how our money is spent, is I saw something about the UK government have just secured 100 million new vaccines or something like that in this vaccine plan. They've secured 90 million on top of 100 million that they already had before.
Oh, the numbers are fantastic.
and I thought to myself, there are what is it, 68, 70 million people in the UK?
66 million.
What the hell are they doing getting 190 million vaccines? First of all, who's going to take them? All of them? Or are you going to take multiple vaccines? Am I missing something? What am I missing? Are they buying them to sell to someone else? Are there that many expats that we don't know about that are abroad?
I think it's stocking up. I mean, they found that one of the medicines was used for something completely different, was helping people recover faster.
Oh, sure. Like blood thinning medicines and all those kind of things, The
US basically bought the whole worldwide supply. It's just what I was reading. It was, obviously there's a lot bit more reading into that, but it probably needs to be done to see why. But it's stocking up and using medicine to play with other things, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't I don't understand. I don't understand. Like so for a vaccine, like would you take a vaccine for COVID if you could get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I would. I think I would. Although I say that I've only had one flu shot in my adult life.
Okay.
And I've never, whether it's coincidental or not, I've never been so sick as I was as when I had the flu shot. So I got this flu shot, and I was just ill for like 2 weeks. I ended up coming down with a case of something. Now, whether that was coincidental, I don't know. But I think with a COVID vaccine, I think I probably would take a COVID vaccine.
Yeah, I was when they were doing the trials. I turned around to my partner and said I would probably, if I knew the trials and they were asking for people, I probably would have done the trials as well.
Really?
Yeah, because it's us. I guess we need to do sacrifices for people in the future, like our kids.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I would I would risk it.
It was funny, though, because I saw that, the girl who had the first vaccine there in Oxford. And then I saw a video after the fact where she came up and she was like, look, I am still alive. All the stuff that you've seen on social media that says, like, I'm now dead and this and that, it's all bullshit. And she literally was like, look, here I am. I'm alive and kicking. I've had the vaccine. It's great. But there were so many people like anti-vax whatevers that were all sharing this stuff.
Imagine if polio or something like that came back. It's just,
I'm totally of a vaccine kind of guy. I think that there may be something to links to other stuff, right? We don't know what a vaccine actually will do in the long run in some cases.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, if the evidence, of course, people will argue this all day long. They'll say, well, the evidence or whatever the drug company wants you to think and this and that. But I think long term, like you say, there's nobody with polio on my street, hopefully.
Pharmaceutical companies in this country are very different compared to other places.
No, they're not.
I don't know. I think a lot of universities have a lot to say in this side, don't they? Like Oxford and Keele being able to make their own vaccines, stuff like that.
Well, they're trialing vaccines and maybe trialing a way to build the vaccine, but at the end of the day, these guys aren't. They're not the local takeaway shop down the road. They're worldwide conglomerates who are being paid loads of money, and how it all ties into how the market works, the stock market, the hope that we have as a human race to whether this was something, look, when it first happened, when COVID first hit the scene, we were kind of oblivious. That's the word I'm looking for. Here, put my teeth back in. We were oblivious to the risk of what it actually was that we were dealing with, right? So like we were on holiday at the end of March, going February, March, we were there, like not end of March, beginning of March, we were already on holiday coming back into March. Even though we knew COVID existed, we were just kind of like, well, is it something that it's only there? It's only there.
Well, I actually got interviewed by the BBC. We were at our university in February and I got interviewed by the BBC about it. And
really? Wow. Yeah.
And I was so blasé about it. It's like, it's just SARS and MERS and H1N1 again. It'll just be confined in China.
But in the beginning, we were really oblivious to how it was going to happen, right? Or what was going to happen, whether it was a serious thing or not. Whereas now we kind of know with a little bit of hindsight that it isn't maybe isn't that serious is the wrong way to put that, because I believe it's serious.
Very serious.
Which is why I'm a mask proponent, etc. When I'm out and about, and I take it very seriously. However, the point that I was going to get at there is now that we know what we're dealing with, it's really strange how there's so many conspiracy theories around it. And I kind of went off tangent there a little bit and kind of got lost in what I was trying to say. But it's amazing how it's grown from this is what we all knew about, this is how we conducted ourselves at that time, and this is where it came in the end. I started a thought there and then I went completely south.
This came from a virus picked up by someone eating something in the wet market to there's a biological plant in Wuhan who've released this on purpose. It's just, as long as there's a vaccine, I don't really care where it came from, as long as it's sorted out.
Interesting, but it will change flights. I mean, like, we love to cruise, and people are saying, like, you wouldn't catch me dead or alive on a cruise ship, but I would probably cruise now knowing what I know, which is very limited information about the virus. The other thing is I have theories about why aren't they reporting things the same way they were before.
I check every day on Google. I put coronavirus UK in.
Do you?
Yeah, check the graph.
But have you noticed it's gotten harder to find that info?
Yeah. The deaths was gone at one point. Deaths was gone for about a month.
Yeah, we went to around 40,000 deaths in the UK.
I checked this morning, 42,000. I think we're on.
No, it's more than that. I thought it was 45.
It's been 45.
My point was is once we got to around 40,000, it was something we were talking about all the time, and then as we had sniffs of opening up again, it just seems as if they've stopped reporting any of that kind of stuff, just to kind of put everybody off the scent, which I find interesting as well. So who knows? knows where we're at and what the future will hold when it comes to things like travel and how we conduct ourselves. Retail businesses. Like, so, okay, here's an amazing thing for me. In the UK here, is it from this week or when is it? I don't know when.
From Friday. You're on about the masks. We have to wear masks.
So everybody has to wear a mask from Friday, right? And there will be loads of people that will go, all right, okay, it's BS that we're talking about this now. It's 14 weeks after the fact. It should have been happening from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which, okay, is a valid point, but it doesn't negate the fact that we need to do it now.
It's like wearing a condom when your missus is 6 months pregnant.
Yeah, exactly, right? So there are loads of people that will say that. But one thing that I find interesting about it is, look at retail in the UK. I can't speak about anywhere else in the world. I can talk about here. I would go to my local shop, to Tesco's here, and okay, they put up some plexiglass stuff like we've got in the studio here to protect the cashiers or whatever, but there were no hand sanitizers at each station. Now, arguably in the beginning, they may not have been able to get hand sanitizer, right? But if I go down the road now and go to Tesco's or Morrison's or Sainsbury's or any of the big supermarket chains, nobody's wearing a mask. And by nobody, I'm not talking about customers. I'm talking about these large corporations haven't set a precedent to go, okay, this is how things are going to happen here in the UK. All of our staff are going to be in a mask, whether we like it or not. Whether it's a medical mask, whether it's an N95, or whether it's a face shield, or whatever, these large corporations should have taken it upon themselves, in my opinion, to set the example to the rest of us.
I think there's a worse thing that no one picked up is we're still using cash.
Well, there are loads of cash conspiracies. I can't. So for me, I can't see why. Just like wearing a mask. Look, if I have to wear a mask for the next 6 months, and it puts those around me at ease, and it puts me at ease, because it will put me at ease, right? And I have to use my card rather than cash for the next 6 months. It does not affect my life in one way, shape, or form. I've got a few family members and friends that think that this is like a a conspiracy by the underworld to get rid of cash forever, and it's all just one big theory that this is going to make us a cashless society. And then, but you know, look, there are valid points to that, right? Like, okay, as a business owner, I know for a fact there are going to be loads of people who are absolutely cacking it that at this point they're taking cash for everything, right? I also know other people in the business community who have refused to move to cards currently because they're worried about it being traceable and actually having to pay taxes for once and do that kind of thing, right? So yes, there are valid points as to why and why not. But for me, it's business as usual. I can't look, if me using a contactless payment card for the next 6 months is going to make life easier all the way around, and Marge, who is taking my groceries at the grocery store, doesn't have to take a wad of cash off of me, then
it's like shaking someone's hand, isn't it? You're touching that money and then giving it to someone there, touching where you've touched.
Yeah, well, this is the thing about, so I had somebody else say to me, do you think that they knew when they changed English currency to plastic notes? And I went, well, no. I went, look, any money, any paper money or coins that you've ever had in your whole entire life are probably one of the dirtiest bacteria-ridden things that you'd ever experience.
Yeah, there's traces of drugs and everything on paper notes.
Yeah, so for me, I don't see it being a problem. Like, I think it's just a tool. It's a tool like everything else. I do believe that you should be able to pay cash if you want to. Like, look, if you're one of those people who are like, look, I refuse to wear a mask and I'm going to pay cash for everything. Okay, fine. You have a choice of as a business owner, you have a choice of doing business with that person still, right? But if I own a business and you come into my business and you don't want to pay for something because it's cash and I'm giving you the opportunity to pay for it another way, I can refuse you business or not. So I actually had this happen. This is a funny story. Pre-COVID, pre-everything, I frequent the casino every now and then, as most of my friends and family will know, and now the people who listen to this.
When we used to go.
Correct, yes. and one night in the casino, I took all of my winnings, and I was paid in only £50 notes, right? And I took a £50 note down to the local McCall's, and I tried to buy like 40 pounds worth of groceries, right? Yeah. And the girl there looked at me like I was literally holding her up at gunpoint. She was like, I can't take that. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't take it? It's a £50 note. What do you mean you can't take it? She absolutely refused to take a 50. Now, I thought at the time, you have to take this. It's the law. You have to take it. No, as a business owner, her business can make a decision that in order to combat, fake notes, that they're not going to take a 50, and they're well within their rights to do that, right? So I was like, no, you got to take this. It's 40 pounds worth of stuff. It's a £50 note. What's the problem? I don't understand what's going on. I was like, get your manager and this and that. And I got on my high horse. And literally the lady came out of the back. She went, look, we don't have to take it. We can refuse your service. And that's all there is to it. So I couldn't believe it, right? So like that happened pre-COVID. Now, I personally, at the time, I kind of took it personal, right? Yeah. I was like, oh, she doesn't like the look of me, or this is, And then I realize now that, you know what? They're well within their rights to do that. If I, as a business owner, don't want to take cash from anybody, then as a consumer, your option is go somewhere that will.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that like when I see all this stuff about masks or about cash, I think that really there are more businesses, and this goes along with the mask thing, that should take responsibility to go, no, this is how we conduct ourselves as a business. So some of the telecoms businesses, retailers, I've been very proud of some of the retailers that I've seen that have face shields on, and the guys that are in the mobile phone shops, they're wearing masks, they're very hardcore, but then within those different retailers, the consistency of what they make uniform or don't make uniform is also very interesting to me, right? So you'll see a franchise store that might not have masks on or PPE, and then you'll see other stores that they're all wearing them. It's personal preference, right?
We went Chester the other day, saw my nan for the first time since lockdown.
Yeah.
And we walked past Thornton's, which is the chocolate shop, and they've got branded PPE. So
yeah.
She had like Thornton's written in the branding on top of the face shield.
Yeah, how hard is it? You just do it and you get on with it. And for me, that makes me more comfortable. But it also shows that I see a business that has due care. Now, don't get me wrong. Like all the grocery stores, they put up these like plastic shields, like I was saying, and they showed that they were trying to care for their people at that time. But when you go around the rest of the shop, I mean, what I've heard now is like, so for instance, Morrison's in the UK, I believe their policy is their staff don't have to wear masks because they have those Perspex shields and things. And it's only going to be a customer guided thing, right? So if that's the case, then that's BS. It's half-assed. I think that as a business in the UK or anywhere else in the world, you have an obligation to step up and go, look, this is how we're going to conduct ourselves, and if as part of that, it's going to mean that we're going to turn over less, or we're potentially not going to survive, then that's okay. But this is how I'm going to conduct how I do things.
Yeah, I mean, one of the places I've been impressed with is McDonald's, actually, because they're the ones who said that we don't really want to take cash. With half the staff, we're giving them masks.
Having said that, we had our first McDonald's the day before yesterday. The kids were like, Dad, can we get it? And I've been like, I don't want to eat out anywhere. I don't want any of that risk. And I've said no now for, whatever. They've been open now for probably 6 or 8 weeks. Yeah. And for 6 or 8 weeks, I've said, not happening, guys, not yet. We'll do it eventually. So anyway, the other day I went to McDonald's through the drive-through. It was all contactless. Every single staff member in McDonald's had masks and gloves on. And when I looked at it, I felt like they were making an effort.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas loads of takeaways, loads of other business establishments, depending on what they are in the UK, again, I always say in the UK because we're speaking about our experience here. Man, loads of people don't take it seriously at all. And even after this goes down on Friday, there will be loads of businesses where they won't do it. They won't do it. I'm sure of it.
But then it's our responsibility then to keep ourselves safe and go to the places that are taking it seriously.
Yeah, but it's strange how it's become a us against them kind of thing. Yeah. Like something as simple as wearing a mask.
I'm not ready to go to the pub yet. I don't think I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready to go to the pub. Although I've seen loads of people who've gone out to eat or gone to the pub and loads. I mean, here outside of here, when the pubs opened, 9 a.m. in the morning, man, there were people that were there.
Oh yeah,
ready to go knocking in, and I just thought, nah, I just can't be.
Especially with furlough as well. He turned around Boris turned around the other day and said that everyone's enjoying furlough too much, but they are now. It's like a summer holiday, isn't it, for you?
I'm surprised it's gone. Again, now that we know what we know, I'm surprised that they made the decision to keep furlough till October. Now, although it's a graduated furlough, I believe that was a move that was probably that they shouldn't have extended it like that from the beginning. They should have taken it on a month-by-month basis. They should have said, this is how it is. This is what we're dealing with today. For now, you guys are covered. Not, we're going to take it down and do it in a graduated,
I think it was more to do with universal credit as well. Universal credit have upped their single allowance. So the single allowance is up by £80 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's only like £400 already.
I have no idea what that means. I don't know.
Universal credits, job seekers allowance, that sort of thing. So universal credits, they put it all into one thing.
One payment, one.
We should get paid like a monthly salary, which isn't much, but basically for the furlough, they've put it up a little bit to help people better.
Yeah, and
I think that's the reason why they're waiting till October. They've now guaranteed that till October, that extra boost.
Which can be a good thing, but I tell you, the job market out there is going to be tough. Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough. It is tough at the moment. I mean, I obviously with this podcast, like I put a ad up for a video editor. Okay. I wanted a part-time video editor. 16 hours a week, part-time video editor. Do you have the skills? Can you do it? I put it up at must have been 10:30 at night. I took the application down the next morning by 9 a.m. because I had 64 applications in a little over or under, 10 or 12 hours. It's okay. You don't have to hide it, mate.
I don't want to go through the microphone.
Just open it up. He's enjoying a crisp, cool beverage, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I couldn't believe the amount of applications in that short window of time. And the other thing is part of the job spec for me was that it was a local position. I wanted somebody who was close enough to here to be able to come into the office in the studio to help me out.
Yeah.
I would say of those applications that I had, maybe 40 were from around the country, all over the country, where they didn't have any kind of video editing experience. They literally just were applying to satisfy a requirement for whatever.
Yeah, you got to apply for so many jobs.
Yeah, you got to apply for so many jobs to still get your. But I was very surprised by that. I was very surprised at the absolute sheer volume of applications that I had, and then I was also very surprised by the amount of personal applications I'd had. So when I put that up, it was through the company. People had researched the company. They'd found me on LinkedIn personally and sent me private emails directly to me about the position before the next morning at 9. I had 4 people that actually reached out to me straightforward.
That's good initiative.
It's amazing initiative, but that just shows what the market must be like at the moment when it comes to new staff and that kind of thing. It's unbelievable. It's going to be incredibly difficult the next 6 months to a year, and then going forward, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, my partner does self-employed stuff, so she does social media marketing. What's it called? She does something with Google. We can get you.
Yeah, like Google Analytics and all that kind of stuff, SEO and all
she goes through a website, but does self-employed, so people advertise what they want doing. Yeah. And then they have to fight with each other to try and get that client.
Yeah.
So it's quite ruthless.
Yeah. It would be. I mean, I suppose everything's difficult now, or everything's a little harder.
Yeah.
And I just, I hope that we all figure out a way to get through it and kind of carrying on, right?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's going to get worse before it gets better. There's going to be a second spike eventually, but, we've got to get through it.
Yeah, so, I mean, the states, when you look at the numbers there, right, are they in their second wave, or are they actually still in their first wave?
I think they're in the first wave.
I suppose it depends on what you're talking about when it comes with a wave, but they seem to really be having some high numbers there, man. But an interesting thing that I also think is the death toll has actually shrunk from what we thought. That they're getting better at treating it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. That's interesting to me.
It's a hard thing to treat, from what I gather. I mean, we're not in that profession, so we don't know what it's like. But I've spoken to a few people who work at the local hospital. It's just something that just can be like a respiratory issue that just turns itself into something like pneumonia. It's just.
And how are they finding it there? Are they overwhelmed?
They were overwhelmed.
Were they?
Yeah. But he's come to me and gone, there's not been any deaths here for about 4 days.
Wow, okay.
That was like last week. I've not spoke to him yet for a bit, so whether there's not been any deaths at all.
I would love, so again, this is me kind of pleading to the audience and to you. Mm-hmm. If anybody would like to come onto the podcast who is a professional and who knows what they're talking about when it comes to these kind of things, please feel free to reach out to me. It's natetice@gmail.com, and Nate is N8, and Tice is TICE. But I would love to have a guest on the podcast who can further explain the ins and outs of what we're looking at, and maybe who has some theories about how we're dealing with things. That would be fantastic. Anyway,
it's just being you rambling on at the moment.
Yeah, well, sometimes. So one of the great things about putting this together is I talk a little too much, but that's why I'm here. That's what we're here for. So yeah, I don't know. I get a little excited when I'm having a conversation, and sometimes I do talk a lot more than I listen, and I try to worry about it.
Yeah.
Later, but I need to change that. Yeah.
You need to do one about going on holidays in this country now. No cruises, no.
Well, yeah, I have a little bee in my bonnet when it comes to that, man, because I can go abroad for a lot cheaper than usually taking a UK holiday, man. The prices are just extortionate. It's just ridiculous what you will pay. I've never done one of these Butlins or one of these these center parks or those kind of things. Because the cost of taking one of those holidays with a family, as opposed to me putting them on a flight and actually taking them on a cruise somewhere or an actual land-based holiday somewhere else, is usually it's parallel. So why stay on home soil?
Yeah, I've never been to Scotland, even though I've lived here.
Get out of here!
I've never been to Scotland.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, you gotta get the family in the car and just go to Scotland. Scotland is amazing. So one of the advantages of me doing the work that I've been doing for the last few years is I've managed to see every tip of this country almost. I was on the road like full time for almost 2.5 years straight, and Scotland is such a beautiful place. If I could, and wow, how they've dealt with all of this, and how they're dealing with certain situations. Scotland, man, they got it going on up there, man.
They deal with everything really well, and I like to think it's government, but you got to think of it. They've got land mass, lower population up there. Yeah, I like to think it's because of Sturgeon and the SNP.
Sure, there are loads of external factors that will make. I mean, don't get me wrong, bro. You go to Scotland, and they've got the same issues up in Scotland that they do in England. Yeah. A city like Glasgow or Edinburgh, as opposed to being in London or Newcastle, it's not really all that different. No. But just the way they're dealing with a lot of stuff, and just the country, it's so beautiful, bro. I can't even tell you how beautiful some of the spots are up there. I mean, there have been days when I've been up on the coast or just up in Scotland, period, in the rolling hills, and you look and you just go, wow. And we're not that far away, I mean, it's a 3-hour drive for you to get to Glasgow from here.
There's a road that goes around the top end. Everyone raves on about it.
Correct. Yeah, and you go up, and you can drive up there all the way up to like Inverness, and then you go Inverness and like all the way down, and you drive all the way down to where you go then back across the bridge to Edinburgh, and then you can take the A1 all the way back down, and you can do the whole thing in like a week. if you're going to take your time, and I'm telling you, you will see some of the most incredible. I mean, but you got to figure, like, driving from Glasgow all the way up to like Inverness is like, it's like a 6 or 8 hour drive, bro. It's like a long time. So it only takes 3 hours for us to get to Glasgow, and then on the opposite end to get up there, it's one straight road that goes through like a protected national forest area, and it's literally like almost the whole way. It's like 2 lanes that just go up. And it's beautiful.
I've been everywhere, incredible. Like in this country in Wales.
Yeah.
Like with football or when living in Devon and now living in Wales, but never gone further than Newcastle.
Yeah, Devon's another place that's absolutely beautiful, man. Devon and Cornwall's just... I love getting down there. I hate driving down there, though. I hate, especially in the summertime, man. It's one of the worst places to drive. The traffic is unbelievable. You just can't make any time.
I used to... once got past Bristol, it was making all the time up. I can do it in 3 hours.
Yeah, but Newquay and places like that is amazing. Like some of the coolest stuff down there, man. Again, I have a dream or an ambition I would love a place other than where we're at now, and of where I've been in the UK, I would say Newquay is one, and around that area, and. Like up Scotland way, kind of towards if you go like west of Glasgow,
where the locks are,
where all the locks are around that area, it's amazing. Even somewhere like as far up north as like Whitehaven on that little like I don't know, what do you call that? Not an estuary, or that bit of land that comes down like Whitehaven way, like as you go into the lakes and where you've got everything there. Even around there, man, it's just what a great place to be.
Yeah, I couldn't live in Devon again, but I love going down there. Just catch a couple of matches. I used to go and watch one of the local teams down there when I lived down there pretty much every week.
Why couldn't you live there? Why?
It's just a bit... I'm a northerner.
We're not in the north. What are you talking about? This is not the north. Okay, all right. It's northwest, but northerner.
But it's very different down there.
Yeah,
it's very one route. Very Devons and Cornwall are by themselves, sort of.
I find it all the same.
It's nice for the tourists because they're taking your money, but when you live in there, it's a bit different.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that I definitely have noticed down that way is, people will say things like, "No, we can't afford our own houses here. Stay up north, stay out of here." And another interesting thing about the situation with COVID has been places like Devon and Cornwall that are like, "No, we don't want tourists all of a sudden. We don't want people coming down here and bringing your virus down here."
Yeah, they've always put a big wall up around them,
which is really interesting. Yeah. Or even like up here in the northwest, people in Llandudno going, "Oh, we should stop everything at the moment. We don't want people coming in with it." And I'm like, guys, tourists are the lifeblood of what...
Wales was so strict until they realised that they'd probably lose a lot of money over the summer, and then now it's like, oh no, it's fine. Well, 5 miles they were allowed to travel at one point, and people live 15 miles away from shops.
Sure, of course, yeah. It's that's interesting.
So, Wales is the closest you'll get to somewhere like it's just a massive landmass of nothing.
Yeah, to me though, the fact that it's so different in Scotland and in Wales as it is to England, and then you throw Ireland into the mix, it's very interesting.
We've got no Irish listeners because they'll be happy about you comparing Ireland to all of us.
I don't care. Ireland can get their head. Ireland is a very interesting place in the respect of I've made the mistake a couple of times being in Ireland that I said Southern Ireland a couple of times, and Jesus, I almost or bejesus, I almost got me head ripped off. That was my pseudo-Irish accent, by the way. But they really got offended that I said Southern Ireland. This isn't Southern Ireland. This is Ireland, and rightly so. But they're lovely. But my point is I can't believe how different it is. So like an example I tend to love to use, right, is look at St. Helens, Wigan, and Manchester.
Okay.
All in like we call it a 60 mile area.
Yeah.
Look at the difference in accents between someone in Liverpool, St. Helens, and then St. Helens to Wigan, and then Wigan to Manchester.
Even
in
like
that stretch.
Manchester to Liverpool, it's only 50 miles away from each other down one stretch of motorway.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like for me, like accent used to be in the States. It's like a a Northeast, so Bostonian, New York kind of accent, right? It's like a general Southern accent in like the South, like Tennessee and Alabama, then down into Florida, and then obviously Texas, right? And then it's like a California accent, and I'm obviously breaking it down a lot simpler than it actually is. But I was shocked at the fact that a bloke from Wigan could sound like he was from Wigan, and then a guy from Manchester could sound completely different. I was like,
well, even here, look, we're 10 miles from Stoke. Look how different we are.
Oh, yeah. I go down there and everybody's calling me a cock all of a sudden, and I'm like, oi, all right, cocka. And I'm like, what? Why does everybody keep calling me a cock?
And they don't say look and book properly down there. They say Luke and Book.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, in America, it's hard for us to establish American accents because we only see certain parts.
But again, this goes back to what I was talking about before with how language will change, right? Or how language can change. Yeah. It's when you're learning something like Mandarin, right? How many different dialects are there of Mandarin? I couldn't even imagine like how many. I'd love to know, or is it important?
Like, there's Mandarin, but there's Cantonese as well, and there's different languages in that area. But
anyway, I diverge. I don't know how we got on that little tangent, but it was all interesting overall. Yeah. Right, all right, man. Anything else you think you want to go through or run down?
Entirely up to you. I'm free.
Nah, man. I would just. It's just whether or not you're still interested in kind of waffling on about anything.
Yeah, there's not really much else. We've covered the local, like the recent stuff at the moment, haven't we? It's just
man. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So I'm pretty good there. I think that's a good episode in the bag and on the wraps. Right. All right. Yeah. Thanks very much for coming in, man. I appreciate it. And we'll do it again sometime. We'll see what's going down. Yeah. And thank you. All right. Let's see if I can nail this outro thing. I'm always trying to do this. All right. Yeah, thanks, dude. Appreciate it. All right.